Welcome to another special Hornbill TV explainer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alnguli. On Christmas Eve, about 1998, a group of drunken Nagaland armed police personnel attacked my elder brother and his girlfriend, who is now my sister-in-law. So the attack happened near the NAP station at a place called the Blue Hill in Woka town. It was in 1998. I think it was during the time I was home from Patkai for my vacations. It was late in the evening. So they were on their way to what we used to call during those times called Christmas camp. My brother's friends were there, my friends were there. We were all gathered at mutual friends' place at Blue Hill on Christmas Eve. So we were listening to Christmas music and eating and just having fun, Christmas. My elder brother, who is the Morong Express illustrator, and let me brag, the governor's award winner Sande Mungule, he's my elder brother, and my sister-in-law were on their way to where we were gathered for the celebrations then. So along the way, a group of about 4 to 5 drunken NAP personnel apparently shouted mean things at the couple. That's where my brother and the policemen got into a full-blown fight, ladies and gentlemen. The Naga policeman knifed my elder brother and bloodied him up. He had a large knife wound here, all the way down to his cheeks. My sister-in-law came running to where we were gathered, and all of my brother's friends, my friends, and we rushed out armed with stones and sticks and anything we could grab, and we were ready to fight. We chased the policemen, but they ran into their camp, which was just a little distance away, Blue Hill in Woka. So it took a very long time for my brother to heal from his injuries after the Nagaland police personnel who were drunken during the time. It took a very long time to heal. If it wasn't by God's grace, things could have been much, much worse. Ladies and gentlemen, we still haven't told mom about it. In case you see this on social media and you want to pass it around, make sure you don't tell mom about it. On Friday, Nagaland's Director General of Police, Rubin Sharma, streamed a video on social media warning police personnel in Nagaland who use drugs and alcohol that they will be terminated from service if they do not clean up. If they fail to stop using drugs and alcohol, they're liable to be terminated from service. That's what the police official said. According to Sharma, police personnel in the establishment who abuse drugs and alcohol have been issued several written warnings even in the past. Apparently, these warnings had been going on about past 7 months. The DGP said this will be the final warning for them to clean up. Let's check out the bite. Here is what DGP Sharma said.
Nagaland te bishi biya hoya ase. Nagaland police bhi itu society laga hissa ase. Tate bhi bishi problem ase. Madhu kha laga manu bhi bishi ase. Drugs kha manu bhi bishi ase. Amakan likhit written pura sab kiman khai ase. Taikan ke warning diya ase. Pehla para 7 mahina pura hame warning dishe. Itya final warning digana koi ase. कौन मधु और ड्रग्स खाए ये तो तैखान ठीक हो जाबी ना होले उपाय नहीं फैलावोते अपनी खान के बिया पहले भी पबी होले भी फैलावो अपनी खान के बोला दे वो सर्विस पड़ा फैमिली खान भी अपनी खान लगा कुन बात हागी ले तो बुझी भी नो मर्सी अपनी खान मधु खाई ले तो अपनी खान के फैलाए ले अपनी खान पड़ा भाल पढ़ा लिखा काम करे मनु पावो दे नागालैंड पुलिस दे so please be careful anyone who is taking drugs or alcohol जाने जाएले दिक्कत होबो धरा खाइले बेशी दिक्कत होबो.
That was the Director General of Police, Mr. Rubin Sharma. Before we go into the various aspects of Mr. Sharma's statement, let's have a general look at some of the states, including Nagaland, and how things are working out, especially when it comes to drugs and alcohol enforcement, especially in the police department. In 2020, the Tribune reported that drug tests conducted by the Punjab police found a lot of drug users and rampant drug abuse among police personnel in the state. The police conducted drug tests in Punjab on about 22 police personnel after they were suspected of consuming drugs. Of them, 15 were confirmed to be using drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what the Tribune reported. According to estimates, a large number of policemen in the lower ranks consume some or the other form of drugs, including opium and sedative pills. Likewise, consumption of alcohol was most rampant, according to the report, which quoted a doctor who was associated with a de-addiction center. Apparently, de-addiction centers receive patients who are in the law enforcement agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what the report says. There are no surveys, no hard surveys or data in regard to the severity of drug and alcohol abuse in India, ladies and gentlemen, which is all the more a problem for policymakers to frame policies that would potentially solve the problem. Nonetheless, it is believed that the number of law enforcement personnel in the country abusing drugs and alcohol are believed to be increasing compared to social assessments in the past. Closer home in Nagaland, drug abuse seems to be returning with vengeance, while the severity of alcoholism has gained even more ground. From what is available records, Nagaland is believed to have a higher rate of substance abuse of various forms than the national average. Although the state is very small and it has a very small population comparative to other states, the number of people using intoxicants specific to drugs and alcohol seems to be very high compared to the national average. The small population and high alcohol and high drug consumption ratio apparently is much higher than the national average. For instance, in 2020, it was reported that about 8.1% of the people in Nagaland use alcohol. It is not only alcohol, but of course, we used to call those days this green rubbery thing called ganja. Nowadays we call them cannabis too. So about 4.6% of the people in the state use cannabis or processed and refined ganja. It is a new thing. It's not surprising that there are a lot of people who use ganja. Even I have used it too many years ago when I was young and dumb. Anyway, cannabis use in Nagaland is reportedly higher than the national average of 2.8%. I think the number would be much higher than that is being projected. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of us, most of my friends and even my schoolmates, we used to smoke ganja a lot. Hemp was quite common in the garden those days. Like these days, you have hemp in your garden and the police will come and arrest you. But those days, it was very common in the fields, in the gardens, near flower pots. They were very common, so all of us used to have it. We didn't really look at it in terms of drug abuse or drug addiction. But we used it because those plants used to give us some kind of a diversion, like we used to smoke cigarettes. Today, weed, ganja, cannabis, pot, whichever form you call it, is exceedingly common among youths even now, especially the youths in the nightclub culture generation. So the perception is the basis of my argument there. More data from 2020 reports. Nagaland is said to have surpassed the national average of 1.1% of people who use sedatives, as against the national average of 2.1%. Manipur and Nagaland are also said to be among the top states in India that have a large population of intravenous drug users or people who inject drugs. Now, the problem for states like Nagaland is this: the state is an important route for drugs and alcohol transit. In June 2020, an intelligence officer of Narcotics Control Bureau in Guwahati revealed that Nagaland serves as an important transit route for trafficking drugs from Manipur and Myanmar, and such as morphine, opium, brown sugar, heroin. These are some of the commonest drugs that are trafficked across this region, and Dimapur is the mother transit of it all, the intelligence officer said. According to a report of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment pertinent to substance abuse in India in 2019, a survey found there are approximately 4.7% cannabis users and 6.5% opiate users in the state. In regard to alcohol, a 2022 survey of the National Family Health stated that 31% of men in the age group 15 to 49 years in Nagaland consume alcohol. That's not a small number, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what is the national average? Just 22.4%. So we are really leading in this sector. Thankfully, compared to that number, only 1.4% of females in the same age group consume alcohol in Nagaland, as against the national average of 0.7%. Of course, there will be a lot of people, especially in our conservative society here, that women should actually not be figuring in the single digits either, because they are not supposed to drink. But I believe modern times have also brought about a lot of modern problems. One of them is alcohol consumption among women, even in communities such as the Naga peoples. The alcohol consumption in Nagaland was about 38.4% for men and 3.3% for women during the survey period. Now let's go back to Rubin Sharma's statement. I'm not very certain whether or not his statement is a policy decision from the government or an administrative notice from within the police administration that he is issuing. The reason for my statement is this: generally, an event as significant as asking policemen and law enforcement personnel to clean up or be terminated from service is not a coffee table statement, ladies and gentlemen. The government of Nagaland certainly will have an administrative action ready in that regard, for which generally they are expected to issue press statements to the media, because this is a very significant development. But anyhow, coming from the DJB himself, he is not stupid. So I think we should believe him too. So what are the implications of his statement? Based on the police official statement, we gather that this notice has been on for some time now. He said that these warnings have been issued during the past several months too. So this is ongoing. So I believe that the state administration for the police is very serious in this regard. There is no option for the police personnel who use drugs and alcohol. They have no option but to just own it up, check into a rehab or a counseling center and detoxify themselves, and of course get counseling and clean up. They have no other option, because the top police official of the state has already issued the warning. One of the biggest challenges in the way of effectively tackling substance abuse among law enforcement agencies is the lack of hard data for this seemingly new phenomenon. I call it a new phenomenon here because those days drug and alcohol use was something not really heard from the policing and law enforcement populations, because if you did something like that, I think it was easier for news to spread, and stigma was a lot higher than how it is now. And those days we never got to hear about people in the police administration using drugs. So I call this a new phenomenon, at least in the way the numbers are projecting itself and the way the establishment is starting to slowly engage in conversations about how even law enforcement agencies and personnel are now doing something they should not in the first place. We don't know how many of them there are. So that is the reason why I say that it'll be difficult for the establishment to actually point out the people or get an idea of how many people are abusing drugs and alcohol, for them to be able to take some kind of a concrete, resolute action to eradicate this problem. If it turns out that a lot of Nagaland police people use drugs, then there will be a problem here, because the police administration would be left with limited manpower and more enforcement pressure for those who are on the streets. So there will be a lot of pressure for them. They have to work extra hours. Let's say they'll have to do a lot more duties than required, because just in case 2,000-3,000 of them come up and they admit in the rehab centers, it'll be a problem for the department. This could impact routine law and order enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I feel. Further, rehab and detoxification treatments are expensive. That is something to remember here. I am told by people from a rehab center in Kohima that you have to pay somewhere in the region of 15,000 for admission, after which you have to pay a monthly fee of about 5,000 rupees for every month you stay in the rehab center. So this means it's gonna hit a lot of pockets there, especially for the lower ranked policemen and foot soldiers in the department. They will be hit really hard financially if in case the government doesn't chip in financially. At least a very good thing is that if our police force cleans up, you can be very sure of increased higher morale and better performance in the force. You can't be feeling wonderful arresting drug and alcohol traffickers if you yourself are drunken or high, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope this policy works out for our police force, ladies and gentlemen. We at Hornbill TV would love to know your thoughts about this issue, and if you're on social media, you may just input your comments on our social media handles, and we will be very glad to have insights from you all. Thank you for watching Hornbill TV. I'm Al Nguli. See you next time.